Why is the CFO's espresso machine hissing like a possessed tea kettle again? I grumbled, crawling behind the dusty server rack with a flashlight clenched in my teeth and a half-smashed granola bar in my back pocket. That overpriced beast was wired into the same breaker as the security cameras for the West Corridor, something I learned firsthand during the Mocha blackout of 2014. Nobody ever documented that, except me. Because nobody around here documented anything, but I remembered. Every inch, every screw, every smell. That morning began like it had for the last 19 years me, Evelyn L. Marsh, unlocking the maintenance door at 6:43 a.m., exactly 17 minutes before anyone else showed up, using the same silver key they gave me in 2006. I used to polish it twice a year. You'd be amazed how many VPs think a stuck lock is an IT issue. The janitors had left toothpaste in the bathroom sink again. Someone in marketing left leftover oysters in the fridge. And the kombucha exploded again. Not my job, technically, but who scraped fermented algae off the back wall with a laminated evacuation map and a butter knife? Me. Some days I felt like the Velcro holding this circus together. I was invisible. Useful only when things fell apart. The CFO still thought I was front desk. Never mind that my badge said facilities manager and my inbox had over 2,800 unread tickets from people who thought restart meant pray. Then came Kimberly, new HR director, fresh off a TED Talk, full of sparkle and acronyms. She once asked where the Ethernet cable plugs into the air. I told her, the same place your LinkedIn quotes come from thin air. She didn't laugh. Now look, I'm no influencer, but 97% of the fine folks listening to this don't hit that subscribe button. That's like showing up to a neighborhood potluck with nothing and still leaving with someone's casserole dish. So go ahead, click that button. It keeps the lights on and the stories flowing. Anyway, back to the disaster behind the espresso machine. And then they forgot. No plaque, no bonus, not even a post-it note from the board. Just once, when I stayed after hours to unclog the third-floor women's restroom, someone had dropped their ID badge into the bowl. Don't ask the former VP of Finance, tossed me half a protein bar, and said, "You're a lifesaver, Denise." My name's Evelyn. I stopped correcting them after year 10. I wasn't looking for credit. I just believed in doing the job right. The lease. The one that let us lock in prime space on Oak Ridge Avenue for 1/4 the current rate. That was me, back in 2006 when the company had 4 employees and a fax line that sounded like a robot dying. Our founder asked me to co-sign. I didn't hesitate. I signed the entire thing under my name. No one else had the credit history. I didn't even ask for reimbursement. Back then, we were a team. Like family. And like most families, they forgot who kept the lights on. You ever walk into a room you've managed for 2 decades and realize you're invisible, unless something explodes or smells weird? That was me, until a thermostat broke. Then suddenly, I was Grandma Evelyn Queen of climate control. So I kept showing up, quiet, steady, like drywall, just there. Then came that Monday, an all-staff email from HR at 4:02 p.m. Subject line, upcoming organizational shifts, which in HR speak means kiss your job goodbye. I'd seen enough executives sobbing into carbonated water to know when layoffs were coming, and I wasn't going to cry. I'd already started remembering everything they'd forgotten they owed me. The invite hit my inbox at 4:56 p.m., just as I was scraping a hardened breakfast burrito off the copper countertop in the break room. Calendar event, no subject, no explanation, just dropped in there like a soggy tissue. Next morning, I walked in at 6:43 a.m., wearing my gray cardigan with the frayed elbow and a stain shaped like Wyoming. That cardigan had seen 4 CEOs and 1 fire alarm pulled during a gender reveal party. Kimberly from HR was already waiting. She smiled like a discount greeting card. "Evelyn, thanks for coming in." Kimberly chirped all sugary vowels and rehearsed brightness. We wanted to have a quick restructuring conversation. That word. Restructuring hit like a brick in a pillowcase. I translated it for others, held their hands, boxed their things, covered their final shifts. I knew the rhythm by heart. First came the fake smile, then the manila folder, then the apology that wasn't really an apology. "We're moving in a new direction," she said. I just stared. That direction wouldn't happen to include me? Silence. Then she slid the folder across the table, soft like a magician, revealing a cheap card trick. Inside a severance package with more red tape than a government shutdown. 3 months' pay. NDA. Health insurance until the 30th. How thoughtful. The letter didn't even get my title right. Called me Evelyn L. Marshalls. 19 years, and they still didn't know my name. "We'll need your badge and keys." Today, the legal guy added voice flat like an old voicemail. "In any company property still in your possession." I took a long breath, one of those drywall cracking ones, and reached into my canvas bag, pulled out my badge and laid it on the table like a poker chip. Then the keys. 11 in total, all labeled in my handwriting from back in 2006. I used to stay after hours, reprogramming the locks myself. "You sure?" I asked, eyes locked on Kimberly. She blinked. "I'm sorry." "You sure you want these?" I said again. "Last chance?" She gave me that HR face sympathy from a script. "It's not personal." "Sure it isn't," I muttered, rising. "Just remember, you can't fire what you never bothered to understand." I walked out before I let the rage catch up. The sunlight hit different, sharp, unforgiving. People rushed past on the sidewalk, but I felt frozen. I didn't drive home. I pulled into the parking lot of a Dunkin' off Elm Street, turned the AC off, and called Lenny. "Evelyn?" he answered. "No," I said, "but it's about to be." He paused, then chuckled. "Oh? That lease?" "Yup," I said. Do they know I smiled? Not kindly, not softly. The kind of smile that means, if this story hit a little too close to home or gave you the quiet satisfaction you didn't know you needed, go ahead and tap that subscribe button. There's more to come, and trust me. The next chapter. It's got teeth. They will. A dangerous one. They just asked for the keys, I told Lenny. So I think it's time I gave them everything they asked for. My house smelled like lemon polish and vintage baseball games, my version of sanity. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, and went straight to the hallway closet where I kept the in case they try something stupid file. Never thought I'd actually need it. But here we were. The folder was bright orange, labeled in thick Sharpie lease 2006 Evelyn only. I pulled it out like I was defusing a bomb. Inside the original lease, 8 amendments, a faded receipt for the lobby rug I paid for myself back when we couldn't afford chairs, and 3 Post-it notes with smiley faces drawn by the founder's daughter back when the office was just a single suite above a bagel shop. They couldn't get a lease to save their lives back then. No revenue, no credit, just one laptop and a printer that shrieked like a banshee. Randy, the founder, sat across from me at Denny's and said, "Evelyn, if you don't co-sign, my wife's gonna kill me when we move into the garage." I didn't co-sign. I signed the whole damn thing. "Just until we get on our feet," he'd said. We never had that conversation again. After that, it was always me renewing the lease, dealing with the property manager, organizing the HVAC installs, and once solving a mystery smell that turned out to be a dead raccoon inside the baseboards. And they never took my name off the lease. Not once. I sat at my kitchen table, cracked open a Diet Dr. Pepper, and started reading like my dignity was hidden somewhere in the fine print. Page 12. Section 9B renewal requires written notice no later than 30 days before expiration. I blinked, then checked the expiration. August 1st. Today was August 3rd. Too late, no notice, no email, not even a text from legal. They were too busy celebrating themselves to realize they just made the worst oversight in the company's history. I leaned back and smiled. The kind of smile you earn. And now, they were squatters with espresso machines. I picked up my phone and started scrolling. The building's insurance policy, still in my name. The HVAC contract renewed last spring through my direct email. The cleaning crew. They only showed up because I Venmo'd the manager every month under a little label I created, Building Freshness Fund. All of it routed through a city-registered business account I opened in 2005, back when the printer and microwave couldn't run at the same time without triggering a blackout. Everything that made the building livable still ran through me. I could warn them. Could have fired off a polite email with the lease terms attached, and a subject line like, "Oops, missed something." But that's not what they would have done if the roles were reversed. No. They'd already be posting a job ad for someone younger, cheaper and clueless about which breaker feeds the backup generator. So I closed the folder, poured myself another Dr. Pepper, and made a decision. For the first time in 19 years, I was going to be quiet. Let them hear the silence. Let them trip over the edge they didn't see coming. Let the espresso machine be their first warning. Because now, they weren't just careless. They were trespassing. And I had the paperwork to prove it. I wore my church shoes to the property manager meeting, not because I wanted to look impressive, but because those soles echoed on marble like a verdict. Thomas glanced up from his monitor as I entered the fourth-floor office. He smelled like toner and had 17 highlighters lined up like toy soldiers. "Evelyn," he said, surprised. "Didn't expect to see you back." I smiled. Let's call it a legacy visit. I took a seat, handed him the pristine lease packet. Original documents, every amendment, even the sticky note with Randy's infamous flying bagel doodle from our 2010 renewal. "I just want to confirm," I said, calm as a storm before landfall. "No written renewal submitted by July 1st. He blinked, then started typing like the keyboard owed him money. "Nope," he said. "Nothing on record." I nodded slowly. "That tracks." I pulled another sheet from my bag, slow, deliberate. Heavyweight paper, crisp edges, gold-embossed letterhead. "I'd like to formally notify you of lease termination," I said. "Effective in 30 days. Thomas's eyebrows flew up so fast, I thought they might file for hazard pay. "Wait. You're terminating it?" "Yup," I said, calm as drywall. As the lessee of record, they missed their renewal window. "I've already lined up a replacement tenant." He swallowed hard. "Do they know?" "They will." The new tenant was a wellness startup called Sage Current, all green juice, reclaimed wood, and investors with buzzwords for brains. Young flush with VC cash, desperate for downtown space to install Himalayan salt walls, and a $10,000 aromatherapy cloud diffuser. I met their founder at a weekend market while buying radishes. She offered triple the current lease rate. Thomas ran a hand through his thinning hair. "This is going to get messy." "Messy?" I said, standing, was what they handed me after 19 years of loyalty. I left before he could ask anything else. Back home, I opened a blank legal document on my laptop and began filling in the details. Plaintiff Evelyn L. Marsh defendant, current occupant suites 204 to 218. Reason failure to renew lease. Material breach. Unauthorized subletting. They'd rented out a back office to some crypto consultant without ever notifying me. Another oversight. I filed it through the county portal, paid the rush fee. The confirmation dinged into my inbox like a bell at a boxing match. And right on cue, HR emailed me. Subject request, confirmation of returned property. "Dear Evelyn, hope you're well. We're reaching out to confirm you've returned all company property keys, documents, badges." I didn't hesitate. I hit reply all because I knew Kimberly loved her CCs like she loved iced matcha excessive. My response? Yes, including the ones you forgot I had. Then I hit send, sat back, let it land. That building used to mean something. I helped raise it from drywall and dropped routers to glass walls and catered sushi. I laughed there, grieved there, grew there. But love has limits. And mine just expired. And mine, it ran out 2 days after they slid that folder across the table. This wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. That morning, I stood barefoot in my sunroom, watering my peace lily with one hand and holding a certified envelope in the other. Heavy, embossed, real ink signature, stamped with county court markings like a seal of judgment. Plaintiff, Evelyn L. Marsh defendant, current tenant formerly. South Grove Innovation Suites 204, 218, subject notice of lease termination and demand to vacate premises. My name printed bold across the top. It felt surreal, like reading your own obituary while sipping coffee. Only it wasn't death, it was resurrection. In sweatpants and orthopedic slippers, but still. Across town, the same envelope landed on the front desk of the company I used to hold together. The property manager had sent it priority and followed up by email standard protocol. The problem, the receptionist that day, was a temp. Her name tag read, Brooklyn, written in glitter gel pen. She probably thought it was a vendor mailer. She tossed it in the recycling bin right between a dead stapler and 3 expired granola bars. Meanwhile, up in the glass-walled executive suite, the leadership team was too busy polishing their LinkedIn bios and circle-jerking their Q4 disruption strategy. One of them was literally giving a slideshow called Vertical Expansion in a Flat Economy. I saw it later on LinkedIn. Stock photo of a woman laughing at a salad. Inspirational stuff. They were too wrapped in their ambition smoothie to notice the tide going out. I sat back on my couch and reread the notice, not because I questioned its power. Lenny had made it bulletproof. No, I reread it because I wanted to feel it. The weight, the finality. This wasn't an HR spat. This was a bureaucratic bomb ticking with quiet precision, and I just lit the fuse. For a moment, maybe 20 seconds, guilt poked around the edges. That building had been my second home. I'd patched its wounds, held it upright. But nostalgia doesn't pay rent, and legacy doesn't come with severance. Then my phone buzzed. Dan from facilities. Hey, everything okay? Something feels off around here. Dan again. Front desk got a court notice. No one's talking. Place feels weird. Dan was one of the good ones. Quiet, reliable. Knew how to replace a fluorescent ballast without turning it into a TED Talk. Once helped me chase a possum out of the ceiling tiles in the kitchen. Never complained. I almost typed, I'm fine, but that felt dishonest. So I sent, I'm more than okay, Dan. I'm just finally being seen. He didn't answer right away, probably still untangling whatever gossip was rippling through the building. I could picture it already, the execs, thinking the letter was some kind of prank. Or blaming a vendor. They were pros at outsourcing blame the way others outsourced dry cleaning. But the fuse was already lit. And I'd staged the matchbox, the gasoline, and the fire extinguisher just far enough apart that no one would reach them in time. The conference room at Lenny's law firm smelled like burnt coffee and laminated ambition. Fake plants in the corners, motivational poster of a mountain climber with the word success written over his impending deathfall. Lenny sat across from me in a blue pinstripe suit. He looked like a ventriloquist dummy trying not to sweat through his collar, but his hands didn't shake as he slid the document across the table. All you gotta do is sign under outgoing lessee and again on page 4 under authorizing party. He paused, pen in hand. You still good with this? I looked at the page. Clinical, crisp, cold as Kimberly's smile. Incoming tenant, Sage Current Incurred, effective date, August 31st, 12, ESU 0 p.m. Sharp rate, $12,800 month triple net, 5-year lease. Signature line, Evelyn L. Marsh. No second thoughts, he asked. Only that I didn't do this sooner. The pen moved across the page like a blade. 19 years of institutional memory transferred to a kombucha empire with mood lighting and Pinterest wallpaper. Lenny exhaled. Judge approved the eviction. You'll get the posting notice within 48 hours. They'll get 48 hours to vacate. He nodded. No appeal. No wiggle room. You gave them the rope. They built the gallows. I left Lenny's office with the signed documents tucked neatly in a manila folder labeled One Thing Closure. Not revenge, not justice, not even payback. Just closure. A clean surgical end to 19 years of holding up a ceiling no one noticed until it cracked. That evening, I drove downtown. The city looked different at night, polished colder like someone had dipped the skyline in chrome and regret. I parked across the street from the building, killed the engine, left the lights off, and I watched. Up in the executive suite, the lights still blazed, burning thousands in overtime power bills and leftover catered poke bowls. Kimberly was probably somewhere assembling a new internal culture deck. the CEO likely pacing with a glass of whiskey in one hand and a pitch deck full of lies in the other. I rolled down the window and sipped gas station coffee. The building stood silent, clueless, lit like Christmas Eve, oblivious to the avalanche rolling toward it. Once that place felt like mine. Now, it was just glass and ego. I looked up at Suite 218, my old office, now occupied by a project manager who probably thinks HVAC stands for happy vibes and coffee. I smiled. Not out of spite, not out of triumph. It was the kind of smile you wear when you see a freight train moving toward a man too busy refreshing his email to notice. They didn't know, not yet, that tomorrow a county marshal would tape a fluorescent orange notice to their front doors. That in 48 hours, every yoga ball chair, every vision board, every sticky note brainstorm in their innovation nook would be loaded into a rental truck, while Sage Current waited patiently with their lease incense and checkbook in hand. I watched until the last lights flickered off. Then I drove home, window down, night air cool, manila folder on the passenger seat, and a sense of peace I hadn't felt since 2006. Around the same time, I learned that gratitude has a shelf life, but leverage that stays fresh forever. She probably thought it was another passive-aggressive note from IT. Last week, they taped a meme of Danny DeVito under the thermostat after someone cranked it to 83 degrees. By 8:07, Kimberly was already on the second floor. By 8:08, she stood frozen in front of the CEO's office, jaw slack, like she'd seen a ghost in heels. There it was, fluorescent orange, laminated, zip-tied to the handle. Eviction notice. Signed. Sealed. Served. Notice to vacate property and breach of lease. 48 hours. She pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, like she'd just overdosed on oat milk and ego. Dialed building security, tugged at the notice, but it clung to the glass like karma. By 8:30, the CEO arrived, unshaven, Bluetooth in one ear. Probably thought he was striding into another Crush the Quarter meeting. Instead, he found Kimberly pacing the marketing team, peeking from behind ficus plants, and a legal notice zip-tied to his door like a giant neon middle finger. He yanked it off, read it, blinked once. Then again. By 9:02, his phone rang. Thomas from Property Management. Mr. Brayton Thomas said, calm and clipped. This is confirmation of lease termination enforcement. You were notified via certified mail and email over 2 weeks ago. We received no response. We assumed your silence was intentional. Intentional, Brayton barked. Of course not. Who ignores a 30-day legal notice? Thomas didn't even flinch. Exactly. By 9:10, panic spread like printer fire. Execs arrived in waves, each reacting to the orange paper like it was ticking. Emergency meetings erupted in the glass-walled conference room, blinds drawn halfway, forgetting they didn't reach the bottom. Everyone on the floor got front-row seats to the meltdown. By 10:15, someone finally opened the court documents they'd ignored. Kimberly scrolled through the PDF. There it was. Plaintiff Evelyn L. Marsh. She whispered it like it was haunted. Dan from Facilities, bless him, nodded slowly. Told you something was off. Meanwhile, I was at home steeping tea with my cat curled on my lap. Phone buzzing. Lenny's text. It's done. They called building security. Marshall's coming tomorrow. You're a legend. Then Dan. Again. Evelyn, they look like ants in a microwave. Proud of you. The local business blog picked it up that afternoon. Downtown tech firm evicted amid lease dispute. An insider source hinted at a catastrophic mismanagement meltdown. They didn't name me, but the comment section did the heavy lifting. Someone uploaded a blurry photo of the eviction notice zip-tied in neon orange glory. Another chimed in. Wasn't their ops manager there like 20 years? Someone else replied. She knew where all the bodies were buried, and which fuse box ran the espresso machine. I sipped my tea. I'd been buried under invisible tasks and quiet fixes for nearly 2 decades. No flowers on admin day, no applause when I stayed until 9 p.m., jabbing a ballpoint pen into the router to get payroll back online. But now they were noticing. And they didn't know this wasn't even the final act. The call came in at 7:42 p.m., just as I was alphabetizing my spice rack. A woman needs orders somewhere in this ungrateful world. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen since he forgot mine at the company holiday party, Brayton Nathan, CEO. I let it ring twice, 3 times. Picked up on the 4th. Evelyn speaking. He didn't ease in. What the hell is going on? You can't do this. He shouted like a frat boy, caught with a vape pen in homeroom. I set the phone on speaker, poured a glass of wine, and leaned against the counter like I was settling into an old sitcom rerun. Actually, I said calm as snowfall I can. And I did. Read your lease. You're evicting an entire company. You fired the person who held the keys. All of them. Legal, physical, historical. He sputtered. We assumed. That I cut in was your first mistake. Evelyn, he said, voice shaking, you blindsided us. No, I replied. I responded. Difference is, I came prepared. Then I opened my laptop and began drafting. To CEO Legal Facilities, Subject Return Property, to CEO Legal EHRE, and just for flavor facilities. Subject Company Property. As requested. Body attached is the complete original lease agreement, including all amendments signed writers and the subletting violations you failed to disclose. As you requested confirmation that I've returned all company property, consider this message fulfillment of that request. Attachment. Lease, termination, der E.L. Marsh, signed. PDF I hit send just as Nathan Brayton was still breathing into the phone like someone who just realized they were standing on a trapdoor. You think this doesn't come back on you? He snapped. The board is going to. They'll do what they always do, I said, swirling my wine. Protect themselves. Maybe toss you to the wolves if the heat gets too high. But they won't come for me. Why is that? Because I have the paperwork, and Sage Current already wired their first 2 months' rent. That shut him up. And just to clarify, I added, I didn't sell your company out. I just stopped carrying it on my back. Silence. Then a click. The line went dead. And for the first time in years, I stood still and just breathed. Not smiling, not gloating, just letting the weight slide off my shoulders like old paint peeling in a summer storm. The new tenants would begin moving in Monday. Sage Current had a welcome banner already printed. Your vibe starts here. Not exactly my aesthetic, but they paid on time, and they knew how to read a lease. The old crew, meanwhile, was spiraling. Rumor was they were begging every landlord in a 10-mile radius. Even tried bribing Thomas, the property manager, with concert tickets and some nonsense about a founding wellness partnership. Too little, too late. The lease was inked, notarized, and already framed on the wall in Suite 218. Sage's founder was picking out wallpaper with eucalyptus leaves and motivational quotes. The tech firm evicted, like a college frat that skipped rent for a semester. Monday morning, I sat on my porch with black coffee and classic rock on the radio. The sky was clear, birds chirped, and 4 blocks away, chaos bloomed. She looked like she was negotiating peace in the Middle East. Hillary, from PR, barking into her phone in oversized sunglasses, while directing movers like a doomed wedding planner. Someone had taped a sheet of printer paper to the side of the U-Haul. Strategic relocation. Nice try. A crowd gathered. Phones came out. Filming started. And then came the chair. Brayton, tan suit, sweat stains, red-faced and unraveling. He grabbed a folding chair and launched it into the side of the truck with a hollow clang that echoed down 6th Street like a broken promise. Someone uploaded the clip with the caption, "When your office karma hits harder than your IPO." Within 3 hours, it was everywhere. Tech slam, fail whale, cringe bay. The comments were unforgiving. Did they evict him or just unplug his ego chair, toss the new leadership style? Someone tell him zoning laws don't bend to furniture. Back at home, there was a knock at the door. A courier stood there, holding a gift basket wrapped in cellophane, organic fruit lavender tea, a jar of turmeric gummies. On top, a handwritten note in smooth, loopy script, Evelyn, thank you for the space. And the story. We'll take good care of it. The Sage Current team. I laughed. A real one. Deep from the ribs. First time in too long. I set the basket on the kitchen counter, poured myself a glass of sangria, and walked to the hallway. Next to my framed photos and the first paycheck I ever earned back in 1982, a small brass hook waited on the wall. I reached into the drawer and pulled out the one thing I'd saved. No plaque, no ceremony, just a piece of brass and memory. The original office key. I hung it like a trophy, not because it opened anything now, but because once it opened everything. And now it closed the chapter on my terms. Quietly, legally, permanently. I'd love to hear from you. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed after years of holding everything together, drop a comment below. Tell me what you would have done or what you wish you could have said. I read every story like it matters, because it does. If you believe quiet work deserves loud respect, hit that like button and let them know Evelyn L. Marsh didn't walk away, she took back what was hers. And if there's one thing I've learned, never give your power away without a signature. Protect your worth, document everything, and never apologize for walking out with your dignity intact.